With Ninja Gaiden Ragebound coming out later this month, we're spending July looking back at the entire Ninja Gaiden series. You see, in the last 37 years, we've seen the good, bad, and absolutely wild magazine covers featuring Ryu Hayabusa on publications like Electronic Gaming Monthly, PlayStation, the official magazine, and Nintendo Power. These are just a few of the magazines that we're going to be looking at today when we rank the best and worst Ninja Gaiden magazine covers. We're going to kick things off with Nintendo Power, which was the first magazine to feature Ryu Hayabusa on the cover. This is another one of their costumed photo shoots with mixed results. The bags below Ryu's eyes make him look about 20 years older than he actually is in the game. And is that a sword he's holding, or is it a key? It's really hard to tell. What I like about this cover is the background, which finds a way to incorporate drawn buildings, a forest, and the horizon. In the far-off distance is the Jakios Fortress, which actually leaves me with more questions than answers. I mean, why are the trees as large as the tallest buildings? How is it that nobody noticed the Jakios compound in the distance before now? It's huge! And why is there both a large moon behind the fortress and a partial eclipse? What do you think Neil deGrasse Tyson would say about that? Look, this is a silly cover, but it's also memorable. I give it a 3 out of 5. Coming out just 1 month later was Computer and Video Games Stab at Ninja Gaiden, and I think they did a much better job. Just go ahead and ignore CVG's obnoxious pop-ups promising exclusive information about Operation Wolf and Afterburner, because really all I'm doing is grading the Ninja Gaiden artwork. Compared to Nintendo Power, this does a substantially better job evoking the spirit of the actual game, which the British called Shadow Warrior for whatever reason. Ryu comes off looking like a real badass here, leaping off a building with sword in hand. It's clearly daylight, yet the artwork offers a hazy orange sky in the background. It really makes you feel like the entire city's on fire. I mean, just looking at this art makes me excited to play Ragebound, and that's not even the Ninja Gaiden game that it's talking about. This is one of my favorites, a 5 out of 5. Look, it was always going to be hard to be the magazine that goes up right after that amazing Computer and Video Games cover. We all know that. But I'm sorry, game players, but the original art just doesn't stack up. Don't get me wrong, I find it cute and maybe even a little endearing. The tiny demon dog jumping on Ryu's back is adorable, and I actually like the look of our hero. This design makes the ninja look like he's wrapped up like a mummy, and I kinda dig the coloring. I will admit that I'm a little confused by the whole shield thing, or whatever that is on the left side of the sword. And is that a meteor that's about to land on Ryu's head? Look, like I said, I like the attempt, but I'm not a big fan of this. 2 out of 5. Now, I know you're thinking, is this even a Ninja Gaiden cover? It doesn't mention Ninja Gaiden anywhere on the cover, and that doesn't even look like Ryu. Also, when you flip through the pages, Ninja Gaiden is never even brought up. No review, no preview, no secret codes, no walkthrough guides, nothing. Actually, that's a really good point. I think you won me over. This isn't a Ninja Gaiden cover. 1 out of 5. Alright, let's get the obvious part out of the way. Yes, this issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly is indeed an eyesore. The royal blue background and red font really clashes, and I'd argue that the games listed under the Super Summer Special section are both unreadable and headache-inducing. Yeah, I acknowledge all of these problems, and yet, I kinda like it. Go ahead and let your eyes adjust to the color war that's happening on the cover, and really focus on the picture that they used. That's a screenshot from the game, and it looks damn good. Sure, it's from a cinema, but tell me that that doesn't make you immediately want to play that game. It's framed like a Hollywood movie, complete with an irresistibly menacing villain's lair cast upon the blood-red sky. Honestly, I would do whatever it takes to find out what's inside of those glowing doors. All that makes this an incredibly effective cover, even if it is a little hard to look at for too long. 3 out of 5. Hey, you remember that irresistibly menacing villain's lair that we were just talking about? Well, here's Nintendo Power's version. While it's a lot more adorable than menacing, I can't help but love the work that went into bringing this cinema to life. They once again incorporated a man in a ninja costume, though at least this time he's facing away from the camera, poised for the long journey to Ashtar's lair. That's a smart decision, and I also really like the water and the mountain range in the background. Everything comes together so effortlessly that you might not have even noticed that the blood-red sky is full of lightning. This is one of my favorite Nintendo Power covers. 4 out of 5. Now I want you to close your eyes and imagine what it would be like to travel from 1990 to 2004. Alright, now open your eyes and surprise! Magazine covers suck now. Here is the 29th cover for the UK's official Xbox magazine. And as you can see, it's just Ryu on the cover and fire in the background. Lame. If I had to guess, Ryu was just edited out of a screenshot, or perhaps this is just the official artwork provided by Tecmo. Either way, it's just so boring. The bright fire in the background has the side effect of making Ryu's darker elements even harder to make out, and most of his body is covered by text. The whole thing feels very claustrophobic, lazy, and claustrophobic. 1 out of 5. I have good news and I have bad news for this Famitsu Xbox cover. The good news is that at least it's better than the official Xbox magazine. We get a more compelling action pose, the fire's only taking up half of the background, and the darker elements of the ninja suit are actually highlighted. It really is just a whole lot easier to make out that costume. Unfortunately, the bad news is that it's still a terrible cover. Compare this to the computer and video games cover from 15 years ago, and this design is missing excitement, intrigue, and urgency. Don't get me wrong, the game itself is amazing. It's still one of my favorite Xbox games. But this cover does such a bad job of conveying what was great about the 3D reboot. 2 out of 5. Now this is more like it. Yeah, it's still a shot of Ryu posing with a sword, but at least somebody decided to extinguish the fire in the background. The flames have been replaced by a purple hue that pairs surprisingly well with the new 3D getup. It's still a close-up of Ryu, but it doesn't feel as claustrophobic as the official Xbox magazine. That said, this cover isn't going to sell anybody on the game. And I really miss the previous era when magazine artists were coming up with crazy cover designs. Look, don't get me wrong, this cover is certainly better executed than the hand-drawn game player's design, but I really miss the effort and the love that went into making that artwork in the late 1980s. That's sad. I have to give this 3 out of 5. Well, at least this EGM cover doesn't hurt my eyes. This is yet another example of a well-executed cover that just isn't very interesting. I like the way the magazine contrasts the white and black, all of which is highlighted by the occasional red text. The word I would use to describe this cover is clean, but also boring and safe and bland. If you pitched me the idea of Ryu walking through a ninja graveyard, I'd immediately get excited. That's a great idea, but this final design just doesn't cut it. The graveyard is barely visible, and Ryu's holding far too many weapons. It's somehow simultaneously too minimal and too over the top. Sorry, EGM, but it's a 3 out of 5 from me. Now, there's a real good chance that this PlayStation, the official magazine cover, is a little more than a snapshot of a Sigma 2 cinema. But I don't care. After suffering through a parade of lazy magazine covers, I'm just happy to see a cover that isn't just Ryu looking into the camera. There is some of that, obviously. But for the first time ever, we finally get to see a real location. At first glance, it might not look like much. There really are enough small details to grab your attention. I mean, there's a flying car right under the PlayStation logo. Believe it or not, this is the first cover in more than a decade to realize that Ninja Gaiden is more than just about a character, because it's also about the story and the world. I think all of that mostly comes through on this cover, even if Ryu's pose is a little bit on the boring side. Still, after slogging through the past few covers, this one definitely deserves a 4 out of 5. I'm not a big fan of Ninja Gaiden 3. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that the new team ended up ruining what was great about the rebooted franchise. But none of that matters, because this is a show about ranking magazine covers. And I absolutely love this Ninja Gaiden 3 cover. This is what EGM's cover wanted to be. We finally get a glimpse in the middle of not just a nasty fight, but also a rainstorm. Of course, the first thing you're going to notice is the superhero pose and all of that blood. But whose blood is it? As we study the background, we start to get a better idea what happened and where all that blood came from. Yeah, it's more extreme and more violent than ever. But this is one of the rare covers that actually shows Ryu in the middle of a brutal fight. It's the rare kind of cover that makes you wish that you saw that fight. Or better yet, you controlled it. The cover is so good that it actually makes you want to play Ninja Gaiden 3. But you shouldn't, because it's bad. It's really, really, really bad. 5 out of 5. For the cover, not the game. Hey, thanks for watching me rank these magazine covers. If you still want more Ninja Gaiden coverage, then check out the last 2 episodes of the review crew. That's where we saw what the critics said about the NES trilogy, the Link's port of the arcade game, Ninja Gaiden Shadow on the Game Boy, and many other versions that you might not even know about. Now, here's the question I have for you. What was your favorite Ninja Gaiden magazine cover? I'm excited to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we're going to be back tomorrow with a new episode of Nintendo Classics Review Crew. I mean, Nintendo is bound to announce something tomorrow, right? While wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,